This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on and welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry here on this Tuesday, January 14th. Thanks a lot for joining us. Jake set the wheel, keep us on the track. I'm Jim Coyle, and of course, Todd Leary is right here alongside, keeping things going as well. Hope your week is off to a good start here on this Tuesday. On the program today, Chronic Hoosier joins us as always, and special guest Kalen DeBoer, former offensive coordinator for the Indiana football Hoosiers, and now the head coach out at Fresno State. Look forward to talking to Kalen as he has moved on and to become a head coach. Looking forward to talking to him about that. Plenty to talk about. Indiana getting back to the hardwood tomorrow night as they travel to Piscataway, New Jersey to take on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Was Rutgers – did you ever play against Rutgers,
Nope.
Todd?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope. Nor Maryland.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but Rutgers would have been playing against what Wisconsin was back then, or Nebraska or Northwestern was back then.
You mean
Talent-wise.
talent-wise? Yeah. Yeah, right.
Everyone had their role in the Big Ten back in the day, and they played it very well. Pretty much year after year almost.
It was pretty amazing how, that was probably the biggest eye-opener to me of how important coaching was to a whole program like that, because, Wisconsin just kind of had both, and Northwestern as well. Both of them just kind of had no momentum, no traction as far as recruiting, and they. But then all of a sudden, Wisconsin got Michael Finley, and things started to change for them, and their whole coaching philosophy changed, and that program since then. You look at the transformation of them in the last 25 years; it's incredible, because they were the doormat.
If people don't understand, having the right coach at the right time, and a great example, I think, is Tom Allen. He's not the greatest X's and O's coach. He's not the most experienced head coach, but he has some intangibles that you can't coach. You can't give somebody. You can't purchase it. He just got something that most people don't have, and it's this it thing. And he's got everybody on one page, and he can do things in a way that makes up for some of those other deficiencies until he gets up to speed in that area. But man, can you imagine a coach that has all that going on?
Yeah, but these guys all start somewhere, and you go back and look at how guys got their start when they started. Most people are not like Bill Belichick. Heck, Bill Belichick, wasn't he the coach of the Cleveland Browns at one point?
Well, worse than that. He was. Yeah, he was. It goes way back, the Jets and all kinds of places.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is like it's not like his philosophy has always been the same for one, or will work anywhere. You kind of have to have that whole, the perfect storm of everything. You've got to you have the right owner, you got to have, the right personality, and you've got to have the right players, and all of that factors in, at every level of this. at every level of sports, not just professionally. The same thing happens in college. But look back on Mike Krzyzewski. That guy alone. His first few years at Duke, everybody in the world wanted to get rid of him.
We've got Archie Miller from radio last night. We'll be hearing from him here today. Right, Jake? I always like to confirm that. Make sure that Jake concurs. Last night, of course, on the gridiron, man, the big game. LSU 42-25 over Clemson, and Trevor Lawrence. Pretty good game for a while, though.
It was a really good game for a good portion of it. I mean, there was a lot of good offense, a lot of good defense. I thought. I mean, it was a pretty fun game to watch, especially the first half. But I think it probably played out. I think a lot of people were trying to say that Clemson, was just as good or if not better than LSU, and I think LSU put all that to bed. I don't think last night was a fluke. I think they just imposed their will because Clemson had a pretty good game plan defensively. I mean, they came out with those 7 defensive backs and all kinds of crap. I mean, that was a different look. Like they had 17 people on defense, but overall, I think LSU just had too many weapons.
Too many weapons, and one was called Joe Burrow. My gosh, 6 touchdowns, man. What is wrong with this guy?
And
he's not human.
Got off to a slow start, too.
And he looks like it's just going, just like he is like, I'm going to walk outside and take the trash out. It's like he is the most laissez-faire. It's so easy to him.
I didn't see that last night. I thought he looked rattled last night, to be honest with you. I mean, I did, especially at the beginning of the game, and there was a couple different times he had
responsible for 6 touchdowns, and you think he looked rattled?
I definitely do. I mean, there were certain drives they were putting pressure on him last night. He didn't handle that very well. But I mean, in the long run, they had a lot of possessions and a lot of weapons.
Hey, hit us up on the text line if you like, 812-269-6367. That's 812-269-6367. Questions, comments. We've got Kalen DeBoer joining us here early on today. I'm excited to talk to him, man. It's going to be kind of cool. See what's going on with him. That's kind of a neat deal, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to hear his mindset on why this was a great move for him. Obviously, becoming a head coach, I think, is probably the end-all goal. But I think you and I both kind of share the same sentiment in that, I think another year at IU or 2 years at IU, and he would have been looking at a Big Ten job or an SEC job or something like that. I thought it was a little quick trigger, but I'll be happy to hear his opinion.
Are you going to tell him that?
I'm not. I'm actually just going to sit here and listen to you talk to him.
Hey, congratulations, Coach. But just let me tell you, give my 2 cents. You're too damn fast. You should have waited. I could have got you a better job.
Well, I mean those
because I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm just laughing because I can see us telling him that, or I can see me doing something like that because that's something that I would do. But no, because I agree with you, and I've said that. I was a little surprised. Other than that, if that job hadn't come open, I think it just worked out that way. If that job does not come open like it did in just 1 year, and he's at Indiana for 2 full years, man, I think that there's other people calling for him. And I think he would have done himself a bigger a favor. I mean, I don't know that he could have landed like Arkansas, who's in the SEC, but they're in the lower rung right now, the SEC, and they're looking to get back to that glory, just like Indiana basketball looking to get back to that glory. Those programs, they want to get back to where those eras that they lived in before. But I don't know if he would have been too much of a risk for that. But
I mean, looking at the success and the excitement that somebody like that Joe Brady brought to LSU, they had basically 2 offensive coordinators. I mean, and I think Kalen DeBoer kind of had. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I just look at it. I think he kind of had a new age kind of passing attack offense that. That a lot of places would be interested in trying to implement in their system. And I don't know. I just think that but I mean, that's us not knowing, the details of Kalen DeBoer. Maybe Fresno's the greatest place he'd ever been his whole life, and he can wait to get back there. It's very possible.
I texted from from Tim. And it's a joke. And I would normally not read this, but this one's kind of funny. Friend of his has 4 fifth-row lower level seats to the Purdue game. Paid $150 each for them. A little steep, huh? But he didn't realize last year when he bought them that it was on the same day of his wedding. So he said, if you're interested, he's looking for someone to take his place. It's at Holy Family Catholic Church in New Albany at 3 o'clock. Her name is Ashley. She's 5'4" and 115 pounds.
That joke surfaces every year about 6 times.
Well, there's number 1 for you.
All right.
We got that out of the way. He also likes our quarterback recruit, Dexter Williams. He may be the next Lamar Jackson. He has some great moves as a mobile quarterback. Might challenge Penix and Ramsey next year. We'll see. That's another great thing about Indiana right now. And wow, did we think we'd be saying this? Recruiting wise, they're in good shape. And if Ramsey stays, oh my God, they're in great shape quarterback wise. You got Michael Penix, who is your coup de grace, and then you've got a backup that is 1B. Then you've got Jack Tuttle, who we know has talent out the wazoo, and then this kid here, who is a dual threat type quarterback. Man, they are set in every regard down the line, and offensively, running backs back, receivers back, line.
How do you make that work? How do you make that work with 4 legit quarterbacks that think they should get playing time? How do you make that work?
Well, I don't think that's the problem. Tuttle knows that he's not ready. Man, you put him on the field, and you can quickly see he's still learning. He's still going through the learning process, and that's very, very evident.
Is he a sophomore?
He will be a sophomore.
Yeah. Well,
and, they may he's already burned his red shirt, so that's right. He lost his red shirt in the transfer, so he will be a definite
red shirt
sophomore, yeah. But I know what you're saying, and that's the tricky. That's the balance. Of course, that's the balance even to a basketball team, Todd. It's keeping everybody happy. That's the balancing act that you gotta make work. A little easier in football because, especially in every position except quarterback.
Except quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caveat.
It's a little difficult at quarterback. It's a little difficult at field goal kicker. It's a little difficult at those positions there's only one of. But when you've got 2 tight ends or 2 running backs even, I'd say running backs is probably the one that you can get away with the most. Georgia's been doing it for years.
Most places you're not going to see a freshman quarterback, but my oh my, here in the last few years, hey, we gotta get going, don't we? We gotta hit a break. Our producer's slacking on me.
Get on it.
We're gonna make sure we don't miss Kalen DeBoer, so we can get off on here. We got plenty more. We'll get back talking about all that stuff. But Kalen DeBoer is going to join us next, and let's get to that from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. Back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Hey, little sister, who's your Superman? Hey, little sister, shotgun. It's a nice day to
Welcome back. Got a Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Tuesday, January 14th, and could not be happier now to be bringing in Kalen DeVore, former offensive coordinator for Indiana and current head coach of Fresno State. Coach, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations, first of all, for the move up to a head coach. I know it's a dream of everybody that gets into coaching, and congratulations, you're there, man.
Yeah, it is a dream for sure. You know, had a chance to be a head coach one other time, but was looking for this opportunity at some point to do it again.
Yeah, when you were coaching at the lower level, and which hadn't been that long ago, did you think that a D1 head coaching stop would be this quick?
You know, I never really set any timeline to anything. I think everyone has goals of kind of being at a higher level at some point. But you know, I just love the profession so much. I love coaching, and you know, as I was going through the years, it's just really about working the job you're at as hard as you can and enjoying what you do. If you didn't really love this profession, it would be really hard because there's a lot that goes into it. It's a lifestyle for you and your family. There's a lot that goes on with Saturdays and the week of prep leading up to it, and of course the off season with recruiting. So, you know, I just worked the job I was at as hard as I could, and you know that things work out. You know, when you're having fun and becoming successful, and just have a chance to be around good people. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, there was certainly a lot of fun for Indiana football and its fans this season, Coach. I mean, one of the best seasons they've had in a long, long time, with nothing but a great future to look forward to. But wow, what a season this was, and a ride that you helped take the fans on offensively. That was just had to be fun, even for someone who's done this for so long like yourself. That looked like a lot of fun this year.
It was. And, you know, you don't do those things without having, you know, a great staff that is all in sync. And that was certainly the case this last year at IU. Just every day in the office, putting together the roster, putting together the plan for the fall, you know, going through fall camp. And we just had such a great relationship, great execution of, you know, when we were meeting with our guys, you know, what we needed to accomplish that day. And then, of course, you know, the players are the guys that make plays. And the guys are all bought in and played with great energy, played together. And, you know, because we had that chemistry within the staff, chemistry within the team. All because of the leadership of Coach Allen. We were able to have the season that we all hope for.
Yeah, and originally you come from up around South Dakota. There's a lot of good football up in the Dakotas. I don't know if people realize that.
Yeah, it's becoming maybe a little bit easier to find the talent in places like South Dakota, just because so the technology, social media and those type of things. But I just think over the years, these programs have been silent, kind of coming up through the ranks. And, if you don't go you usually go to the metro areas when you're thinking about trying to find recruiting. There aren't very many metro areas out in that part of the country. And so there's a lot of guys that slip through the cracks that could be at higher levels. And, they end up playing small college football. And there's a lot of pride in that area to do that. And, a lot of championships have been won over recent years, just because, those teams are loaded with some talent.
Is that part of what led to your offensive style, that attacking, aggressive, just always after it style? Is that of getting attention or just out of necessity?
No, I don't think it's about attention. I think it's about doing what we got to do to win football games. That's really what it comes down to. We want to attack, but we want to toe that fine line of not being reckless and not turning the football over. And when teams are on their heels defensively, that's what you're trying to get. And attack enough, get them to have to communicate a lot with different looks, and just having a lot of threats in the football field is what really helps if they can make their offense great. They can't just cover one guy, and I think this last season was certainly a tribute to that, where across the board, I think we had threats from one sideline to the other, and guys that can go vertical down the field. And, of course, the offensive line be able to protect and open up holes for guys like Stevie Scott. So, there's a lot goes into a great offense, and we had a recipe for that this year. There's no question about it.
And they're going to have pretty much that same recipe back next year, which is got to make Indiana fans salivate with happiness and joy. A lot of those same guys are all coming back, Coach. They could be as good, if not better, next season.
I'm sorry, it's a little muffled. What was the first part of your question?
I said that virtually all of those guys are coming back next year, so they could be just as good, if not better, next season.
Yeah, that is certainly exciting. And, as we're going through the season, I know that's something we kept talking about is, just keep one day at a time, putting one foot in front of the other. Because it wasn't just about this year. It's about growing the program for years to come. And, the excitement on both sides of the ball, I think, is extremely high because of all the guys that do return, as you said. And just, again, building on the momentum, building on the confidence, building on the energy that exists in the program is certainly there. And this spring, I think, is going to be an amazing spring. You think about January 2nd to less than 2 months later, spring ball happens. So it's become, when you have these late bowl games, a year-round season now all of a sudden for IU football.
Yeah, and I talked about your 1 year in Bloomington, Coach. You say every coach says they learn a little bit from everybody wherever they go, and Coach Allen is someone who's short on years and experience as far as a head coach, but he just seems to have this something that he's got everybody on the same page. So what he's lacking in X and O, his experience right now, he's making up for in other areas that brings the entire team together. But what was your year like here in Bloomington?
Well, I think when you're talking about Coach Allen, you're talking about high energy, and then no question about it, a passion for IU football. No question about it. Homegrown, and this is a dream job for him, and what he's putting into, I think, is genuine when he's out there talking to people and selling the program. And when you're able to be in that type of position where you just love what you do, the energy and passion comes out. And, he just puts a lot into the recruiting and along with the rest of the staff. And as these classes get stacked on top of each other, that's what the future's going to be, is more and more of what happened this past season.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Any chance that on the way out you gave Indiana a home-and-home series that you'll be coming back to play a game?
A home-and-home with who?
Indiana.
With Fresno?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I never even thought about that. The crazy thing is these schedules are built up so far in advance. You have your conference schedule, and I know they were talking 2029 just the other day. I guess that isn't as far as it seems. Time flies, I guess, but 2029 and 2028 are some of the games I know that are being at least talked about. So someday I'm sure that'll happen. When we can cross paths in different ways. I know we're flying over, to the East Coast here in a couple of years to play a team or two. So, you never know what could happen.
Absolutely. What's it like now having that first D1 head coaching job? I know you've been a head coach before, but this is that upper level, and this may not be the last level for you, obviously, with the talent we've seen from you. Right. But right now, this is that upper level. What's that? That's got to be pretty exciting for you.
It is. It is certainly, and it's a question that I was just asking yesterday. It's really a hard one to answer because it's a continuation of everything just you're trying to do and trying to accomplish, and it's not, again, like I said, where you have this end all goal of being a Division I head coach. It's just working the job you're at and enjoying and loving what you do, and here you are, in this opportunity to bring a staff together, bring families together that are part of these the lives of these coaches, and then obviously bring these players together. And we get together here in 2 days, and I can't wait to see these guys. It is a different role, certainly as head coach, not as a coordinator. And I've kind of felt that certainly as you get back into it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember how this head coach thing is, and you're in a totally different. Probably the biggest thing you notice is you're in a totally different mindset as far as bringing the team together. You aren't just focused on the X's and O's and recruiting your side of the ball anymore.
Well, I know how popular you were here in Indiana, so I'm sure there was a lot of guys that were happy to see you back there. So that's got to make that part of it a lot easier. How hard is it leaving a place that I know you were only here in Indiana for a year, but you develop relationships with not just coaches, but players as well, staff members, everything. That's got to be the most difficult part of coaching.
Yeah, I think when I've had a chance to coach my alma mater, for 10 years, and I had a chance to coach a couple of places in my alma mater and Fresno State, and IU are just places that are certainly very, very special. And you almost when this opportunity comes up, you're so excited, but you just realize, man, you're gonna be leaving a place that you just love going to work at every single day. And my family's just so in love with Bloomington. It's such a great place to live. The coaches and their families just really mesh well. So those relationships are strong. And, obviously, the growing of the program there and the love that was kind of shown our team this last season is something that you don't want to just get up and leave. And so, it certainly is hard. And, I'd be lying if I didn't say that there was, some moments where you just had a few tears because you love the guys, you love the players, you love the coaches. But you also know that this is a place I love to be at too. A lot of the same things happened when I was leaving here. It was really hard, and I knew this place was special here at Fresno State, and you just try to do what's best for your family in the end.
Absolutely. Nick Sheridan from Indiana, that's someone you had an opportunity to work with in this season here, taking your place as the offensive coordinator. Your thoughts on that, Coach?
Well, he is an extremely bright young mind, and probably the word young isn't something people and even he doesn't want to hear, but that's the truth of the matter, and that shouldn't be something that's held against in a negative way. It's not his fault that he's been around football his entire life, and growing up around it, and puts everything, every ounce of energy he can, aside from his family, into the game, and getting himself as prepared as he can for these opportunities. And I just relied so heavily on him in so many different ways. And then it isn't about just the X's and O's; it's how he handles the players. He's just so good with them. And he's so far beyond his years. I just think about where I was at in my career and where he's at, and the future is extremely bright for him. And I think Coach Allen has done a great job making a decision to continue on with what's happening there and putting Nick in that position. Nick knows just as well as I did when I came in, and you don't do that alone. You have to have guys around you that buy into who you are, most importantly, and then believe in what your vision is for the offense, for the team, and just an extension of Coach Allen. But Nick's going to do a great job. I have no question about it.
Well, it should make you feel good that even though you're not going to be in Bloomington anymore, a piece of you still will be, because that offense that they will be running is pretty much going to be the same what we saw this past season, a very successful and fun to watch offense. And I know that they're going to love having you back out there in California. You got a lot of fans back here in Indiana that are missing you already, but I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us today, Coach.
Yeah, you bet. It's my pleasure, and there'll always be a Hoosier fan out here on the West Coast for sure. Be rooting you on, and with the time change, it's actually pretty easy to catch a lot of different games because sometimes games on that side of the country are over, and we still got about 8 or 9 hours before we even start over here. So I'll be watching closely and be cheering on the Hoosiers as well as with my family.
I'm sure that we'll have a lot of people doing the same for Fresno State, and we'll keep up with you. And if there's an occasion, we'd love to have you back on.
All right, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Coach Kalen DeBoer. Thank you, sir. There's Coach Kalen DeBoer, former offensive coordinator for the Indiana Hoosiers, joining us there from out on the West Coast. It's a little early for him out there, but we appreciate him taking the time to join us. We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. Chronic Hoosier is going to join us today. We got a lot to talk about, plenty of basketball, Indiana basketball, college basketball, lots to get to. We're going to hear from Archie Miller as well. Stay tuned. You're coming back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat, Coyle Leary, back right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment. all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
But I had probably 25 people come up to me after that after the reunion was over with and people started to leave, and not one person did. Every single person that I talked to said the same thing. This team played with so much energy today. Oh, yeah. It was so obvious the difference between Wednesday and Saturday.
It is, and that's the thing you wish you could ball up as a coach and put it in there. And they hit that switch, man, and it's go time. The best bring it every night. We're learning, as a group that's sort of finding its way as a team, that how we have to play a certain way. And we've shown glimpses of the good. We've shown some glimpses of the bad. But if you have the opportunity, to keep getting better, which we do, and you can keep bringing to the forefront of their minds how positive things can be when you just control what you can control. Just the easy stuff. Don't worry about the other stuff. Worry about the easy stuff to control. And I think that's what we did on Saturday. I think guys were just tuned in and basically completely locked in, ready to play, hard to win. I thought Rob gave us an unbelievable shot in the arm first 4 minutes of the game.
There's Coach Archie Miller talking about his troops and their performance. Before I forget, Todd Father, big hire by Indiana. We just talked to Kalen DeBoer, former offensive coordinator and now the head coach at Fresno State. But a big hire, and I meant to ask him about this though. But Kevin Wright from IMG in Florida. And we know that a lot of the success that Indiana's been having is because a lot of the recruits, they've got more recruits on their team from Florida than any team in the Big Ten, I think with 26. And that's only going to continue because now you further solidified by hiring away the guy that was head of the probably biggest academy in the state. And he's someone you're quite familiar with, Todd, Kevin Wright.
Yeah, I mean, he was the head coach at Carmel several years ago and left to go down to IMG, which is, if you're not leaving a high school job to go to, if you're not leaving Carmel or Warren Central or Ben Davis's job to go to a college, then that's probably the only other step up you could have is going to the IMG Academy.
Because it's like a small college.
It is. It's like a prep school, and it gets all the talent from across the country that. Any talent it wants, it basically gets, and that's.
But because of that, you're also dealing with every college coach,
right,
recruiter, and scout in the country as well.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw the hire was that continuation of recruiting the state of Florida, because he's obviously had his foot in the door with just about every big name recruit, probably all the way down to the 7th and 8th grade. There in the state of Kentucky and even across the country for that matter, because people travel in from everywhere. I mean, there's a couple of schools like that across the country. There's one in California, there's one in Las Vegas, and then IMG Academy in Florida are probably the most well-known ones that kids will travel, from all over the country to go there and finish their high school careers out at. And it's like a smaller version of college. I mean, there's a lot of kids that go there and they're preparing for 1 year of school in basketball wise. They're preparing for 1 year of school in basketball and then on to the NBA. And in football, they're preparing for their 3 years in school and then on to the NFL.
And this is the kind of stuff, and I'm talking about by hiring a Kevin Wright. This is the kind of stuff that you have to do to continue to get better. for Tom Allen to continue to grow this program like he is. He's doing it not because he's the greatest head coach that there's ever been, because if you listen to this show, you've heard me say it before, he's not the greatest head coach from an X's and O's standpoint. He's not that experienced yet, but he more than makes up for that in other areas. This is one of those. He's got great relationships, and his ability to establish and maintain these incredible relationships that are allowing him to recruit at a higher level than what Indiana really is right now. And I think that's what's going on, is he's able to recruit at some of these programs in Florida, and doing this right here only adds to that and will allow them to jump over a team like Maryland or Rutgers, who is in this area where Indiana is, and they're trying to get to that next level. It's hard, and you need something to kickstart it or give you an advantage, and this may be just that, Todd.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, this is, like I said, the first thing that went through my mind when they signed him on, or I just saw that he was being hired at IU, was that continued recruiting of the state of Florida. And then also, one of probably Coach Allen's biggest asset is, something Kalen DeBoer said there, and his passion and love for Indiana football. And, I think it's pretty obvious in the interview, but I think it was pretty obvious in just the situation of Kalen DeBoer only being here for 1 year that I mean, he enjoyed the job. I think he really enjoyed working with the other coaches and the kids and all that, but it was a stepping stone job for him. And, Coach Allen's biggest asset, I think, is the fact that this is not a stepping stone job for him. I mean, this is where he wants to be, and this is where he wants to end up. And this is not a job that propels him on to another level. This is where he wants to be. And that comes across when you're selling it, whether you're selling it to a recruit or whether you're selling it to a new offensive coordinator or in an interview or, the AD or anybody that you're talking to. I mean, it comes across. I think that was Bill Mallory's biggest asset. And I think that, when you look back at the successful coaches that Indiana's had in football, Bill Mallory and Tom Allen, I think they share a common trait in that they loved Indiana football, and it was, they were Indiana football. And I love hearing Tom Allen introduce himself as the head football coach at Indiana University, because the pride just exudes out of his mouth when he says it. And it's just awesome to hear. He sells himself, the program, a recruit. He sells everything in every conversation he has. So, I mean, he'll get people in there that can do the X's and O's stuff that maybe he's not the best at. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying he's best at selling the program, and he's great at it.
Well, that's his job. His job is to have guys underneath him at the DC and the OC level, the coordinators. Those guys should be people that are being sought after year. Now, you don't want to have to replace them every year, but if they're not being really, really sought after every 2 to 3 years, then you've got a problem, I think. Use those guys, and that's what you need to do. Continue to manage that underneath of you as the head coach. Yeah, but those guys need to be sought after. If they're not, then I think there's a reason.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think when you're looking at that scenario, what surprises me a little bit is, a coach moving from like what Kalen DeBoer did. Because he's a great offensive coordinator, does that mean he's a great head coach? I mean, it's kind of different traits and different characteristics and a different skill set. And so I don't know that one really leads to the other. I'm not saying he won't be. I'm just saying I would have probably suspected him moving to another offensive coordinator position at a bigger school or an SEC school or somewhere like that would have been a step up as opposed to a head coaching job, because he's basically taking on – he's working in the same industry, but he's taking on a totally new job because it's not the same thing. Right. There are a lot of head coaches that call the plays and do all that. So he may continue on with that, and it may be a big part of his job. But it's not like in Tom Allen's case.
Yeah, it's like being the president of Ford Motor Company, and then you've got guys underneath you that are in charge of the brakes division and a guy in charge of the engine division. And they're very, very different from each other. And you used to run one of those divisions, so now you got to oversee everything.
Right. And I don't necessarily think that it translates that because you're good at one that you're going to be good at the other.
No, but you've got to start at some point. Every head coach has been a coordinator, so it's just a natural progression. And you're right, because every coordinator is not a great head coach. Look at Cam Cameron. He was known as a great offensive coordinator. Why he got his job here, and he was terrible in Indiana. They were terrible, and that's with having Antoine Randall. And so, no, not every great. And he was a great offensive coordinator at places like LSU. I mean, he had success in the NFL. He had a lot of success, but not as a head coach. For whatever reason, some people excel at one area better than another. I think it's Tom Allen's a perfect example of that. He's not a great X and O's guys on offense because he's been more of a defensive-oriented guy. So he has pretty much given up offense every year. He said, "Oh yeah, they're going to be the offensive head coach." Well, he's more into just being a head coach, and that's fine. The more he learns about that, but he's just being a head coach. He's not calling the offensive plays. He's not calling the defensive plays. He's managing everything, and he's learning to do that and do that better each year. And Indiana's going to continue to get better. But yeah, you want to see your coordinators. This is Nick Sheridan. He's new, so 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if people aren't chasing him, that means there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, but we'll see. That's in a couple of years. But so now Indiana has the youngest staff, I think, in all of Power 5 football. Head coach, coordinators, without doubts, are both in the early 30s. Extraordinarily young for a football coaching staff, and well, that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also, you heard Kalen DeBoer talk about it, and it's, young is kind of a weird statistic to use because, like Tom Allen's young in his experience level as a head coach, but, he's been around the game his whole life. And, Archie Miller, I mean, how long can you say Archie Miller, he's been a head coach since 2011, but he's been around basketball since he was 1. So, I mean, basketball's been his whole life. He's been a coach guy.
For almost this is his 10th year as a coach.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying,
decade.
But he's been around basketball his entire life. So it's not like, he just has that experience as a head coach and that's all he's been around basketball. And these guys have been around it forever. And some people learn fast. Everybody learns at different paces. And I don't worry so much about the age. I mean, look at it. Whenever you look at, like, who's the guy, Sean McVay, or who's the guy out in California for the Rams? I mean, what's that guy, 33 or 35 or something? Yeah. I mean, nobody worries about his age.
No, not after performance, baby. It's all about. If you have
any success at all, I mean, nobody, all you have to do is perform. Yeah.
All you have to do is perform. Tim wanted me to ask Kalen DeBoer if Ramsey was going to go to Fresno State. I passed on that one.
Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't and couldn't comment on that anyway, so it would have just been a waste of putting someone in an awkward position. But
which is why I passed on it.
Peyton Ramsey's not going anywhere.
Jennifer from Evansville says, I was just looking at my IU calendar and being 13-3 isn't too bad. I would just like them to make the big dance this year. Well, I think that, I've gone back and forth on there. I think that they can do that. There's no doubt that they can. Todd's never wavered on that. But, and I think they're a lot closer to, for me, feeling like that they will do that because of how they play. The last game, they really played very, very well. We'll see how they play on the road. Like I said, a loss doesn't mean a whole lot because they're not playing against some Joe Schmo here. They're playing in a tough place, and so getting a win would be tough. They're probably the underdog. Are they the underdog up there?
I don't know.
They may be.
I'm sure they will be in that game.
But so just I think Indiana is going to end up because they've put themselves in a pretty good position if they can just kind of get things leveled out with this new assortment of rotation, of moving Devontae and see if that works and how that chimes in. But man, if that continues and that kind of flow, no telling how good that team can get.
Yeah, I mean, I if they don't make the tournament this year, it's a major letdown. Like they're in position to not just make the tournament, but being a pretty good seed in the tournament. And
they would have to have an epic collapse.
Yeah, it would have to be similar to last year. I mean, look, we thought last year they were one game in the Big Ten tournament away from making the NCAA tournament, and they lost 12 games in a row. I mean, if they lose 12 games in a row, they don't deserve to play in the tournament. It's pretty much exactly that simple. But they're not going to in this Big Ten. They're not going to.
I agree with you too. And this is a tougher Big Ten, and I think that they're tougher though. I think they're a better team.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a guy like Trace Jackson Davis that makes that a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, and and I think this Joey Brunk, this newest alignment, even Armand Franklin, although his shooting woes have really hurt him, he's done a lot of good things and he's learned a lot. This is a kid, man. 2 years from now, 2 years from now, they're going to be probably very, very happy of the play and the minutes that Armand got this season.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they've got a good makeup. They've got guys who can all contribute and all. Even this year as a freshman, Armand is going to play some big roles in some games for Indiana, and he's already done that. I mean, Notre Dame, they don't win that game without him, and there'll be more games that are like that, and that's why I think their ceiling is so high, because they have so many different guys that you can kind of say that about. And I think. I heard some people talking. I heard Greg Doyle talking about Joey Brunk in the Ohio State game, and he was the reason why they won. And I was just sitting there going, how can you make a statement like that? Like, he was a big part of the win, an overall team win, but he wasn't the reason why they won. It's just silly. But he played great. Defensively, he played great. They've got so many different pieces that can play well. And have the potential to play well in a game. And that's why I think they have a chance to win every single game.
You've got potential.
Yep.
I care every time. Well, that's going to be stuck in my head for a while.
It was stuck in my head all day yesterday.
But there could be worse things. Could be worse things to have stuck in your head. Who else we got? Jordan Hull's on the program tomorrow. How about that?
I'm excited to hear. I got some questions about him about playing overseas. He'll be he can enlighten us on what it's like over there.
I like to have a free throw shooting contest between you two.
Yeah. It would be close.
Not 3-pointers, because that wouldn't be fair, because he's still active in shooting. But free throws is something that
I mean, free throws, I mean, we'd both, if we shot 100, I mean, he'd have to make 95 to beat me.
Probably. What? You still think so? You're still saying you're 95%?
Free throws?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm guessing on the low end. I could probably make all 100.
On the low end.
Yeah, it's free throws.
It's free throws.
I could easily make 95 out of 100.
Practice. We're talking about practice.
Man, your imitations are. You did a really good one yesterday. Since then,
well, that's not really an imitation there. That's just more of a bringing up the phrase. Talking about free throws. Free throws. We're talking about free throws.
Free throws are don't ever change.
That would be hilarious to see somebody on one of the Indiana players answer that question like that. You talking about free throws?
Right.
You talking about free throws, man? We're talking about free throws.
It would be disappointing.
It would be disappointing, but hilarious all at the same time. So there's that. Hey, who did you most enjoy seeing at this reunion? There weren't a lot of guys there that probably you haven't seen in a long time, but Landon Turner was someone I didn't think about being there. Who was there? That was cool. I did not get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, he's back a lot. I talked to him actually more than you would guess. He comes back to a lot of games, so I see him pretty regularly. Coach Felling was fun to talk to. It was his 80th birthday.
That was cool that he was back there.
Yeah, he's such a good guy overall. I mean, he took a bad rap for the way he ended his career at Indiana, but
Coach Knight would not probably remember. Maybe he doesn't remember that incident either.
He for sure would not remember that incident. I guarantee it.
Everybody's wondering. Everyone's wondering what incident. What are they talking about? What are they talking about?
Google it.
Yeah. Because guess what? Maybe we'll talk about it in the next hour.
Why?
Just because it's called a tease.
Yeah.
It's called a tease. The people who are listening now, they have to listen to the next. But that's going to wrap up this hour. So they'll have a choice. So we got to go. But thanks a lot for Kalen DeBoer joining us in the first hour. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to Chronic Hoosier here coming up in the next hour. Lots more to talk about. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary coming to you here on this Tuesday, January 14th. I'm Jim Coyle. He's Todd Leary.
Hello. Still here.
How's the Todd father?
Man, I stayed up. I'm early. I go to bed early, and I stayed up late watching that game, and it's catching up to me this morning. It feels like a Monday.
Yeah, we've got Wednesday night, of course, after the game with Todd Leary comes to you. That would be around 9 o'clock as 7 o'clock
Eastern.
tip. Eastern time, absolutely. Indiana tips at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central as they travel to Piscataway, New Jersey to take on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers in a game that is probably going to be a lot better than people might think.
Well, hopefully. If it's not, it's going to be bad for Indiana because Rutgers is a good team and they play well at home. So
I mean, this is there are no other than Northwestern maybe, and because they're just kind of bad. There are no. You just don't know. I mean, one day Purdue is going to score 36 points against somebody, and the next day they're going to hold them to 36 points. It's just nuts.
Yeah, it is.
Or whomever. I'm just using them as an example because they just.
But it's that way. Yeah, you could go down the list. I mean, every team in the Big Ten.
And Michigan State is not a team that you think, not that they can't be beat, but they're not a team that I see getting held to
20 points in 40
the first points. Half. Right. Yeah, it's just, I'm like, how the hell do they do that to them? But, man, it's just, it shows you, for one, home court advantage. There is an advantage. There's no doubt to that, but it's more to that. It's going to be fun and wacky, man.
This is, like, offensively – it's kind of there's a nationwide struggle. The teams are really struggling. I mean, you watch
epidemic.
Like Tennessee, that game that Tennessee had. I can't remember who they played, but they played someone on national TV on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, just a miserable game. I mean, they couldn't score at all. But that's been the case. I mean, Virginia is miserable. North Carolina is miserable. These teams just can't score. And Indiana has gone through their droughts of not being able to score, not just within games. I mean, heck, every game for the last 4 games, they've had at least a 7-minute scoring drought. But, just from a whole game standpoint, it's just crazy how teams are struggling offensively.
Yeah, and that's what's been a surprise, I think. This college basketball season has been a weird one, and it was the weird one from the freaking start.
Yep.
I mean, from the start of the year, you got this like, oh, wow, this is wild. When you see Evansville beat Kentucky, when you see Stephen F. Austin beat Duke, both of those coming on the road, you're like, okay, this is like some tournament stuff that we don't get very often. But then it continues, and then we see a team like Dayton rising and staying up. We see these teams that are just
like Michigan
well.
being unranked and then going and beating Gonzaga and North Carolina and all those teams in the tournament they played in. I mean, it's just there's teams who were under the radar, and then of course Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State was ranked number 1 to start the year, and that was based on them having the addition of two players that they don't have this year, and one was the transfer in Hauser from Marquette, and the other one was the kid that was hurt, Langford. And, they probably would be right there with Gonzaga if those 2 players were available to this team, because that's a lot of offense that they've got that's not available to them. And it's been weird. What's that?
Ryan from Michigan says, I like the confidence, Todd. My pop said you could flat out stroke it. He remembers it well.
Yep, your dad must have a long memory, but shooting is just always something that came pretty easy to me. You're either, you're kind of born with touch or you're not. You can become a better shooter, but if you're not a good shooter and don't have good touch, it's kind of a lost cause.
Is that why there's such a struggle at the free throw line today?
I think so. I think it's just something, when you watch back when I played, it's funny because it's just different nowadays. There's so many more things for kids to do. I mean, back when I was a kid, I say it to my kids all the time, and they make fun of me for it, rightfully so, I guess. But when they're running around doing things and going places and playing video games and do all this crap, like I never did any of that. I was out shooting baskets, shooting free throws, and I practiced them. I mean, I used to shoot hundreds of free throws before I'd go to bed at night, and it's just I don't see kids doing that anymore, and so I think that's the reason for the struggles. Free throws, there is absolutely no excuse. I don't care what it is that you do. I could teach anyone, as long as they had the time and were willing to practice it. I could teach man, woman, old, young, doesn't matter who it is. They could become a 75% free throw shooter. It's just there's no two ways about it.
No disagreement here because
and I don't know, this is going to sound ingenuous, and it's not. Look at the women's team. As a team, I think they're probably around 80%, and you watch them take a game, they're shooting from the same place, same distance, same height, all that stuff, and they're just as consistent as it gets. Same motion, same stroke, same everything. They don't let all that mental crap get in their head. They just step up and do what they're supposed to do at that time.
Yeah, I mean, free throws are one of those things that, if you've ever shot free throws in front of 17,000 people, like there's definitely a different feeling to that than there is shooting by yourself in the driveway. And, like you just you don't feel your hands the same. Your legs don't feel the same. Like everything is a little bit different. And what you learn through that process is, you know what? If I practice it enough times and I go through the process and I do it the same way and I practice it and I do it the same way as when I practice, the result eventually is going to be the same. And you just got to trust it. And if you trust your work that you put into it, then, that's where you gain the confidence. I felt like I should have made every free throw. I can't believe some of the ones that were missed. Same way with jump shots. I mean, I can't believe some of the jump shots that were missed. And you trust the process of how you do it, and if you do that and you put the work in, I don't, for the life of me, see how someone couldn't be a good free throw shooter.
I don't see how any free throw shooter that's shooting less than 75% is just not being driven nuts by the fact that they shoot less than 75% and are just at the free throw line day after day after day doing this stuff. And it brings to mind, I think this was probably last season when Don Fisher was on with us and talked about, and this was last year's team we're talking about, but he said that team had no gym rats. There were no gym rats, just what you were just talking about. There was no gym rats because they can tell now with the Cook Center. Everybody has a card. They just swipe that card. They can go in 24 hours a day. They can go in at 3 in the morning if they want. If they want to go in and shoot, they can go in at 3 o'clock in the morning, walk in, shoot to their heart's content, leave whenever they want. But there's no gym rats on this team here. And this was last year. And I don't know that this has changed or it's not changed, but it goes a lot to what you're talking about. A guy that is just automatic, a guy like Todd Leary, a guy like Pat Graham, a guy like, whomever you're talking about, Damon Bailey. These guys just – did Jake just say me? I thought I heard that mouse squeak. It was like a mouse in the corner squeaking.
I muted.
I heard
muted
me.
it.
I'm like, what? Who was that? But yeah. But those guys – but you all used to do that. Hell, we used to do that. And we're not even in a position that I used to do that. And so I know what it was like to be a kid back then, and you just did it all the time. I don't think it's that. You talked about the AAU programs. They do that, and that's all they do now. There's no going out on the street corner and playing for 2-3 hours a night and getting honed up that way. And let me tell you, that's a different kind of ball, but that has a place.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I lived in an apartment complex all growing up, and we had a basketball goal in the apartment complex. And I used to play the around the world game. You ever played that around the world game where you have to hit all the different shots? Like I used to make myself have to go all the way around and back without missing any shots. And I'll tell you what, you get a windy night out there when you get down to that last couple of shots and you don't make it and you have to start all over. I mean, I have stayed there for 6 hours in a row before I've made all those shots. And when you play those games with yourself and you put yourself, I mean, I've hit so many last second shots in my mind. I've won 50 million games in my lifetime in my own world, one on nobody out there, but
the kids, but kids who weren't even as talented as you, like me, used to do that. The kids who were as talented as you aren't doing that today, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's just a different world. I mean, there's there's social media, there's all kinds of different things that kids have to do, and it's a different world. I mean, that's truly why the art of shooting. Yes, you can blame a lot of it on the fact that the 3-point line has been moved back. So it's ridiculous probably for me to say that 6 guys on my one team at IU shot over 42% from the 3-point line for their careers. because the line's in a different spot. So we're not comparing apples and apples, and I get that. But
2 feet, and we're talking 2 feet.
It's a big difference. There's no doubt about it. But I will also tell you, there isn't anyone on our team that would have shot 29%. Like, it's just, I mean, this what they're shooting right now is just atrocious. And I don't,
Right.
you know, I'm not just using IU. I'm talking about, we started this conversation out about the whole country. And I mean,
They didn't shoot 60. The team was not shooting 50% from the free throw line. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, there were probably games when that was the case. I mean, it probably happened.
But not in the frequency.
But not
that
consistent.
this does.
Not consistent. It just.
I mean, you are a pretty damn good 90% free throw shooter. Pat Graham's a 90% free throw shooter. I'm going to guess Calbert Cheney's pretty damn good. I mean, those guys along those lines.
I would probably bet that Calbert, Damon, Brian Evans, myself, Pat Graham, Greg Graham, we're all above 85% probably for our careers. And, you know, then you're probably talking about, you know, Meeks was probably 75%, and Alan Henderson was probably close to 80%, I would guess. You know, just everybody on the team was decent at it. I mean, Chris Reynolds struggled a little bit. Jamal struggled from time to time.
That funky shot, man.
Yeah. Lindemann struggled a little bit from the free throw line, but
Tall,
you know
what
what they did, what the difference was, it wasn't lack of trying. You know, once you get to IU, it's different. I mean, you should already kind of have the foundation built at that point. You should have practiced so many tens of thousands of free throws that, you know, you're just honing your craft at that point. But you know, even Lindemann, I can remember Lindemann staying after I can remember Coach Dockage there with him staying after shooting free throws for hours. I mean, you know, when you're a 60% free throw shooter, like that's unacceptable, and you can't get on the floor half the time. And you don't want that to be one of the reasons why you don't get on the floor. 7-footers
have to learn a different touch.
It's different. Everything's different about it, though. I mean, their hands are bigger. They're at a different angle than everybody else.
It's a completely different shot than you and me shooting.
It is. But also, you know,
But sometimes it's easier.
It's repetition. It's truly repetition. I mean, you know, I could teach you to pitch quarters up against the wall right here. I'd not teach you. I mean, we could both just sit here and pitch quarters against the wall. And, you know, if we practiced it enough times, we're going to get a lot better at it. You know, 2 years from now, if we do that every day and we pitch 500 quarters against the wall, I mean, we're going to get a lot better at it after a couple of years. And
Steph Curry has put a few 3-point shots up in the practice arena.
For sure. I mean, look at what guys do. This is a great example. Look at what guys do when they go to the NBA. How many guys have you seen? Take like the Horace Grants of the world from a long time ago. I mean, those guys couldn't shoot a lick when they got to the NBA. And over time, they developed, you know, a jump shot because that's their job and that's what they do. They have shooting coaches and they shoot until their arm's about to fall off. And you just, when you do it that much and you have that much repetition, you have to get better at it, you would think.
Yeah, you would certainly hope. I mean,
college is different, though. College, I mean, you've got a lot of other stuff going on. You got academics you got to make sure you take care of. And, you know, you got to remember these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. I mean, we know what was going through people's heads at that age. I mean, we weren't making always making the right decisions.
Now, here's the thing that I don't know if it drives Hoosier fans crazy or not if they think about it, but if you did think about it, it would drive you nuts. If this team had two shooters, actually if they just had one, but if they had two consistent shooters, 40% shooters, this is a top 5 team. That it makes that much difference. If you've got two guys that you know that are that consistent, that are shooting 40%, wow. This team is that close talent-wise to being that good, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you know if those guys that you're talking about were taking the majority of the shots, I mean, Al Durham and Devontae Green are probably both right around 40% from the three-point line. But how many times through those games when Indiana wasn't playing that well, even Notre Dame and, you know, even UConn and those games, I mean, we talked about it. Al Durham was offensively kind of non-existent, especially when we're talking about putting three-pointers up. I mean, I don't know how many three-pointers he took during that period, but he's one of their better three-point shooters from a percentage standpoint. And yeah, he had numerous games where I don't think he took any 3-pointers.
Is the 3-point line where it should be now?
I think so. I like it where it is.
This is it's to the point to where this is not a gimme. This is not.
I think where it is right now will bring more shooters back into the game. Bring it back into bigger basketball. I mean,
that's exactly what I was wondering.
You look at North Carolina right now. What would North Carolina do right now for a couple of standstill shooters out there on the floor? I mean, this team can't score the ball to save their life. Virginia, what would they do for Kyle Guy or Ty Jerome to be back there and make some shots for them? I mean, they can't score. And this is going to bring, I truly believe this will bring some of the, some of the shooting and skills, fundamental skills back into big college basketball.
Well, we've got a lot more coming up. Chronic Hoosier's going to join us here next on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Stay tuned. You're listening to us at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with all that and more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
All my friends know the low rider.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Tuesday, January 14th. I can't believe that, but to make it all better, we're going to make it a Chronic Tuesday as always. Chronic Hoosiers with us. Chronic, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. A little foggy this morning, both in the outside environment as well as upstairs in my head after staying up too late watching that football game last night, man.
Yeah, that was a game for a while. It's certainly enough to keep the attention last night for a while, but it faded, and LSU, of course, exhibited their will. But, man, it was a better game, I think, than a lot of people thought it might be.
No, absolutely. It's all the big games anymore just get so incredibly hyped up. It's often really difficult for them to live up to that hype. And I'll tell you what, man, I felt like personally last night's game really delivered. That was a heck of a contest. Two really good defenses, two really good offenses. Man, LSU's just that's something else, man. That is absolutely something else. It was a heck of a game. I'm just glad more than anything, especially as a neutral spectator with no dog in the hunt. You just love to see them live up to the expectation. I thought that one last night certainly delivered.
Absolutely. Indiana basketball having a good go of it, coming off of a nice win over Ohio State. And then they head on the road, a place where not been very kind to teams in the Big Ten. This road thing they got going as Indiana travels up to Rutgers to Piscataway, which in any other lifetime you would be going, oh, great, another win. Not so fast, my friend. Rutgers has won 6 straight, Chronic.
Nah, man, I'll tell you what, this is not your daddy's Rutgers. Heck, this ain't the Rutgers that all of us have grown up knowing as a part of the Big Ten anymore. Steve has really got some momentum going there for a change. They are a very competent team, not the least of which their defense. Probably going to give Indiana one of the better challenges they're going to have in conference, at least as far as matching that offense up against what Rutgers is trying to do defensively right now. More than anything, though, Indiana's got tremendous opportunities. Archie mentioned in his weekly radio show last night. The key for this team right now is really breaking this whole thing down into one-game seasons. And I know it's cliche in coach speak to the superlative, but it really is so incredibly true. The Big Ten is just so ridiculously tight right now. You cannot take a single game for granted. You can't take a single set for granted because with so many of these games, I think as you look at Indiana's projections, the vast majority of them are going to be decided by 2 possessions or less. Absolutely critical that they maintain focus, they maintain the energy and the momentum that I think we saw that propelled them against Ohio State after a pretty lackluster performance against Northwestern, where they really had to claw their way back to the back into the game and basically drag themselves across the finish line. It's certainly a welcome response against Ohio State. Now the big test is, can they sustain that success? More than anything, though, can they pack that energy and that intensity and take it on the road?
Absolutely, and that's a place where we have seen it. It doesn't matter who you are. Just this week alone, we saw Michigan State travel into West Lafayette and get annihilated. Michigan goes up to Minneapolis, and again, it doesn't matter who you are. Man, life on the road in the Big Ten this year. So if you can sneak a win away, that's why I was talking with Todd about this yesterday. That's why that loss, the loss to Wisconsin, at Wisconsin, albeit, but then, man, that was a great place. They could have snuck away with a road win. That would be looking really, really good right now. But that didn't happen. But hopefully they can maybe get that done this week.
No, absolutely. And I think as you're looking at them, I've got Pomeroy pulled up in front of me right now. Only one projected away win on the season right now, which is the subsequent game following the Rutgers at Nebraska.
And that is no gimme because we all know that they've already beat Purdue.
Yeah, no question about it, man. And I think more than anything, for Indiana, it's really going to be a matter. We talk about energy, we talk about intensity. They got to keep that attack mentality, that mindset. When the guards are attacking the post with post entry passes, when they're attacking, the paint off the dribble, when they're attacking with passes off the ball, getting it, just keeping the ball moving and they're spacing up. It really comes down to, I think we're seeing this team's going to live or die with their guards. Obviously, I think we've got to the point where you can expect, the effort of Joey Brunk, of Trace Jackson Davis, is going to be a constant for this team. That's going to be there, and they're going to certainly have certain matchups. They're going to vary from opponent to opponent. But more than anything, having Devontae locked in obviously can change the game for Indiana. Having Rob back on his game, I thought was absolutely paramount for IU's success against Ohio State. And Al played a really, really clean game as well, I thought, considering some of the slumps he's been in. So it's great to see those guys kind of get it back together. But, the one number that I'm looking at right now, obviously we're only 5 games into it, but for Indiana, the way they like to score and the way they like to control the game, averaging 34.6 free throw attempts at home. Only 2 games so far in conference on the road, but in those 2 away contests, they're only averaging 22 free throws. So you cannot let that attack mindset stay at home if they're going to have a chance to steal some of these on the road in the Big Ten. And I think that free throw attempt stats is a great indicator of just how well they're pressing the issue.
Yeah, but they've got to start hitting some of those free throws. That's been a little scary to see 50% free throw shooting going out there when we know what they can do with that. Because somewhere along the line, that's going to cost them a game, not hitting those free throws, but we'll see about that. On the football side of things, I just thought of something too, Chronic. I think I just came up with a new segment called Your Hoosier Moment of Zen with Chronic Hoosier. Let you bring up a moment of zen in the Hoosier world at some point. But Kevin Wright, a good hire on the football side for Indiana out of IMG in Florida, is going to do a lot to smooth over the loss of Kalen DeBoer. I know it's a different position, but he's a pretty good experienced coach.
No question, man. I think the one thing, and there's certainly a lot of discussion following the decision to promote internally for the offensive coordinator or co-offensive coordinator positions, if you will. I think more than anything, I see Tom Allen signaling that continuity is going to be really important for this staff. Obviously, they had a great thing going offensively last year, allowed them to hit some highs that, quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people were really expecting or thought were possible with this particular offense, especially having brought in a new OC just last year. So certainly an indication that Tom Allen likes the direction of the program offensively, wants to keep it going, maybe with a couple of tweaks. And I think you're absolutely right. Tremendous hire from from a development standpoint. Obviously, a proven guy that can get a lot of talent ready for Division I football. But you look at how that impacts the recruiting trail. You look at how that extends Tom Allen's reach both into Florida as well as into the Southeast and other parts of SEC country. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely. Indiana getting back to basketball now, back on the hardwood tomorrow night, Chronic. The opportunity to move forward with this little bit of momentum that they have grabbed here.
No, this is one of those things. I tweeted out the conference standings just this weekend, and for all of Indiana's struggles, for all of the limitations, that they've had so far, I think it's just really going to be one of those years that, I don't think anybody expected to see Indiana, especially after that Wisconsin loss, especially after the way they kind of limped into the meat of the conference season, that they'd find themselves, at least this early even, in a position where they're tied for third, just a game and a half back from the top spot in the conference right now. But I think that just gives more credence to Archie's whole mindset that you got to play this thing one game at a time. Obviously, there's going to be some tough losses ahead of them, but just focusing on every single game. I mean, who would have thunk last year, for all of Indiana's struggles, that they would be able to sweep Michigan State? So this team certainly has potential to do some pretty big things when they're all bought in and on the same page together. But I think more than anything right now, just taking it one game, obviously I think Rutgers is a game they can win. It's going to be a hard-fought win, no doubt. This is certainly not the game that we've seen before. But you really can't take anything for granted this year, whether it be a home contest against the bottom team in your conference, or in this instance, a road contest against one of the better teams in the league right now. So I'm really curious to see what kind of fight Indiana brings, really curious to see if they can sustain that defensive connectiveness, because I don't think you can overstate how important it is, whether the shots are falling or not, whether you're getting the whistles and getting to the line. They have absolutely got to keep the defense dialed up. And, more than anything, too, I'm real curious to see how this rotation kind of shakes out going forward. Archie talked about, kind of whittling it down a little bit. And while Demezi was out and that kind of limited what we saw from a gross number of players, I think they only played 10 against Ohio State when you really drill into that a little bit. You know, Race Thompson only pulled 5 minutes. Armand Franklin only pulled 5 minutes. Some extended run for Deron Davis at 11. But basically everybody else was closer to 20 and up from there on.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
So you had
to see
really, kind of had a core of 7 players and sprinkled in Race, Deron, and Armand just to give some guys some blow. But I think it'll be interesting to see if he keeps that limited rotation up and just 2 steps up tomorrow night.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes in that direction. Anything that you got going as we head out?
Zach and I are trying to touch base. I think we may be finally dropping our first pod of 2020. It's still weird to say that to me. We're going to try to get together sometime, maybe tomorrow at the very latest Thursday, and get the Mind Your Banners fired back up. Other than that, man, just trying to get in a new groove. It's officially the spring semester here at Indiana. We're halfway through the academic year. In the heart now, I guess, of the basketball season with football being over. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing how the women rebound after a really tough double overtime loss at Iowa. I still have a feeling that those ladies, I should say, have got some tremendous potential in front of them. Looking forward to seeing how they can wrap it up too.
Yeah, that was an awful loss. That would have really put them in the driver's seat for the Big Ten championship, but I think that they'll be fine regardless. What a heck of a season they've got rolling. Chronic, I can't thank you enough. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks as always for having me, brother.
There's Chronic Hoosier joining us here on this Tuesday. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Larry. We're coming back to finish out the show. Stay tuned. Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Smoking in the boys' room. I was smoking in the boys' room. And teacher, don't you feel me? Up with your rule. 'Cause everybody knows they're smoking too loud.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tea time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. It's kind of hard to break in. You just kind of I want to keep singing along with that song.
That's how you get fired up coming
little
back.
Pearl Jam, baby.
Right
That's
there.
right. You got that right. A little Pearl Jam for you. That works. That always works for me.
How to wake us up.
Alan would like to see or hear of more barn basketball games and less AAU games. In the barn, you get toughened up. In the AAU, I just see kids running the floor, very little defense. That's Alan in Bird's Eye.
Yeah, it's not even so much very little defense. It's just kind of a lack of structure overall. I mean, it's when the coaching when it comes to most AAU programs, the real elite ones, they've got players that are coming in either from all over the state or in some cases from all over the region. And they don't practice. I mean, how can you get a kid that goes to school all day long to come down to Indianapolis to practice when he's from South Bend or, from New Albany or somewhere like that? So all they do is show up for the tournaments and the games. And so, I mean, what can you expect? I mean, practice is a huge part of a team playing together and gelling. And so those games are basically just, they're all-star games where kids are just play a little bit harder.
Ryan in Michigan said, I talked to the kids that I coached about what Guy did versus Auburn last year when they were down 2 in the Final Four at the free throw line. That was straight confidence to do what he did in that situation. Yeah, we got guys that can't hit free throws up 15 right now. So can you imagine being in a situation where not only the game was on the line, but a big game was on the line?
Yeah, but that's different. I mean, that's Kyle Guy's game. I mean, that's what he's good at. I mean, he's supremely confident when it comes to that point, and getting to the free throw line for Kyle Guy is, it's 2 points.
It's a challenge.
It's 2 points.
It's a challenge. He wants to get there. He's like, please. Sure. He's like, do me a favor. Put me at the free throw line. Let me take this easy 2 shots. Give me these easy 2 points. And that's the attitude I think these guys, if they had a little more of that, a little more of, hey, give me those free throws. Let me shoot those free throws. But right now it's too much like, hey, man, foul him. Don't put me up there.
That's why you look at the scoring drought that Indiana had in the Ohio State game in the first half, that last 10 minutes of the first half. That's where it's kind of a head scratcher because they were in the bonus. Like, if you look at that from the standpoint of you're in the bonus, and we talked about it the other day.
And there's no pressure. There's no pressure.
That one was weird. A little bit different because they were still taking good shots. They were just missing them. I mean, Justin Smith took a bunch of good shots. It wasn't that they were chucking up a bunch of bad shots. They just were missing them. But that's the time when you got to get to the free throw line. I mean, that's when you're in the bonus, there is no excuse for a scoring drought.
It's the only reason. That's the only way they scored.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, you can make a living at doing that. I mean, you can.
Well, and people like Al Durham, that's something that he can do, and I think that he may have. I don't want to say realized that, but in that game against Ohio State, where he spent a lot of time of trying to get attacking the rim and trying to get there. We already know that Trace Jackson Davis can make a living doing that. But he's got to get more consistent at the free throw line because he can make a living doing that, and he can make it life hell for other teams in that capacity because not only if you're hitting those free throws are you piling up the points, but you're also piling up fouls against the guys who are trying to guard you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, everything positive comes from drawing a foul, and the quicker you realize all the positive impact that has on your team and negative it has on the opposing team, the better off you are. And Indiana just has to capitalize on it. I mean, I don't know how to explain 20 for 37 from the free throw line. Like, I really don't. I wish I could say, well, this is all they've got to do and they'll fix that because, the rules are different now. Like, you can't I can't just go in there with them and work on their free throws. It's just not legal within the NCAA. Otherwise, believe me, I would be. They've got to just figure their way through it. It's just unacceptable. I mean, there's nothing you can say about now. They've just got to practice more. End of the story.
Unacceptable. I think that's not understanding what that word means by a lot of these kids today. They don't understand that this is shooting 50% of the free throw line is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And I don't think that they understand what that actually means. That's not acceptable. You have to do better. There's no you need to, you must.
Yeah, I mean they've got to have somebody. You used the term earlier when you talked about gym rats and stuff like that. I mean, they need somebody. They've got to take pride in it, for one. Like, I wanted to be a good free throw shooter. Pat Graham wanted to be a good free throw shooter. It's embarrassing. I can't think of a more embarrassing thing on the floor to happen. I mean, all the attention is on you. You're standing there, no other movement, nothing is going on. You're the only person with the ball, and everyone in the gym is watching you shoot. That's the time when,
and you have a chance to help.
Yeah, I mean, everything positive can happen for you. I just can't believe that guys wouldn't sit there and work their tail off until their arm fell off, becoming a better free throw shooter. It's free points. I mean, but the NBA is a weird example of that, because look at probably the best player in the world for the last 15 years right now. I mean, LeBron James is a horrible free throw shooter. And the guy shoots like 62% or something crazy like that. Like, how's that even possible? Doesn't make any sense. He's got good form. He's got good touch. Everything about it seems good, but he just is not a good free throw shooter. I can't explain it.
Got to make it up. Tonight in the Big Ten, we're going to see what Nebraska's made of. Indiana's next opponent. They travel to Ohio State tonight, where they are a 17.5-point underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's looking at this to be the get right game for Ohio State. I mean, they needed this. They needed to get back home with I'll call it an easy win. And
they've lost 4 straight.
I know. I mean, they need it. They need this. Trust me. They need this game on their schedule right now. But
do they win by 17.5?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, but I think that it's a lot. It is. I agree. But Nebraska has, in my opinion, overachieved. I mean, they were picked to go 0-20 in the Big Ten. They already got 2 wins.
Jumping out of the Big Ten for a minute, Clemson hosts Duke tonight.
Yeah. I mean, Big Ten games, you got Iowa at Northwestern and Maryland at Wisconsin.
Louisville
is
goes
the other 2
Pittsburgh.
Big Ten games. So, I mean, Maryland at Wisconsin, that's one Indiana's interested in. Now, you're going to expect Ohio State to win. Ohio State's going to end up back up there in the top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten by the time the season's over. Iowa will find.
That's a game that Northwestern is a game that no one can afford to lose, even on the road.
Yeah,
you have to. That is the only one that you can say, okay, plan on winning, and it doesn't even guarantee that, but you have to plan on winning on the road at Northwestern.
Yeah, and Indiana doesn't have that game. So
exactly, Indiana does not have that game because Iowa's 11-5 right now, but they're going to be one of those bubble teams at the end of the season. They're going to be one of those teams that's on the bubble, and winning that game at Wisconsin that Indiana failed to get. Those kind of games are the ones that's going to come back and haunt you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's got some good wins on their resume, but they've also got some bad losses. I mean,
there you go, boy.
They've already lost at Nebraska.
How about Maryland at Wisconsin?
Yeah, no, that's what I said a minute ago. I mean, that's a game Indiana fans are interested in based on Big Ten standings at the end of the year. I mean, that's a game that I'd say Indiana fans have got to be rooting for Wisconsin in that game.
Wisconsin, a 2.5-point favorite at home over the 17th ranked Maryland Terrapins. Can Wisconsin continue the torrid play they've shown in the Big Ten so far? It's been a good run for them, man.
Yeah.
Maryland sits at 13-3 right now.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are 3-2 in the Big Ten, as is Indiana. So, one of those teams will drop out. I think Wisconsin probably is the team lesser to worry about of those. So I'd probably rather Wisconsin. As an Indiana fan, I'd rather Wisconsin win that game tonight, which means Maryland will win.
A lot of interesting games on tap.
Yeah. I mean, we're finally. That's why you wanted to say that game last night, even though it was there's 45 points in the first half, and it was kind of a fun game to watch. We're over it. Like we were over football a week ago, and it just was stupid for that to be in there. And my point in all that is we're knee deep into Big Ten basketball season, and there's good games almost every day right now. I mean, you got 2 games tomorrow. Penn State will be at Minnesota tomorrow. I mean, think about every one of these games you put on here. I can make an argument for why the other team has a decent chance of winning it, no matter which team you name. I mean, Nebraska's not going to win at Ohio State tonight. But beyond that, I mean, I could make an argument why Wisconsin's going to beat Maryland or why Northwestern has a chance of beating Iowa, tomorrow night. Penn State at Minnesota. I mean, how do you pick that? How do you pick that? I don't know. Coin toss?
I go with Minnesota, home team, all day long.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I mean,
I know. I mean, that's
where I'm going. I'm like, yeah. They beat Michigan at home. I'll give them that one.
But if you're just going with home team, then you're going to say Rutgers is going to beat Indiana?
Very possibly. It's very possible.
I didn't say possible. We know it's all possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you said you're going to take Minnesota because they're the home team. I mean, are you going to take Rutgers because they're?
If I was betting, maybe
you would.
Maybe.
I don't know that I could argue against you.
What's Indiana going to have to do at up in New Jersey?
Play hard. I mean, I think they're going to have to play. They're going to have to execute a game plan that's going to include playing hard, taking away the lane. If they execute defensively the same way that they did against Ohio State, I think they're sitting in a pretty good position. But offensively, there's a lot of area to improve on. That's where I see the biggest benefit for Indiana. If they can rely on their defense the way they played against Ohio State, then the ceiling is incredibly high for them. If all they got to do is improve offensively, and they become really, really tough to beat. But, overall, they haven't been able to rely on that defense. It was great against Ohio State. They've got to go out and prove they can do that on the road.
The RAC is not a tough place to play, but it is because it's not. It's kind of a junky. It's like you almost can't get fired up in a place like that.
Yeah, I've never been there. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
Assembly Hall it is not. I assure you. Mackey Arena it is not. Breslin Center it is not.
Is it old? Is it an old?
Yeah,
arena?
Just old junky. It's probably like a municipal auditorium.
Really?
There you go.
Okay. Like the barn up in Minnesota.
That's probably an insult to the barn.
Trash. That place is
probably
cold.
Probably an insult to the barn.
I don't know. You ever been there?
I have not.
It is crap. It's awful.
Tim texted and says I can't understand it. He's talking about road wins in the Big Ten this year by all teams.
Yeah, isn't it like 5? There's only 5 road wins.
Oh, there's only been 4 road wins. Now I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we've seen it. I mean it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Why in the Big Ten this year more so than other places?
I don't think it is. I think we're just more familiar with the Big Ten. I mean, I think that's just the way that it is. I mean, it's always difficult to win on the road. We say this every year. We just forget we say it every year.
Yeah, but that's a little more. This is a little more so than most years. That's why everybody's talking about it so much.
I mean, Wisconsin went on the road and won at Ohio State. I mean, I just think that I don't think that there's any teams that are outstanding. I think every team has some deficiencies, and most of those deficiencies are on the offensive end. And what travels better, when you take your offensive and defensive games and you go on the road, which one travels better? Defense. I mean, defense is kind of more effort. Basketball, you gotta put the ball in the basket, which you got different shooting sight lines and different things can factor into that. Defense, you just got to be in the same position you had to be at home. It's just playing hard and playing hard and playing smart. And so, offense doesn't travel the same way defense does. And offense all across the nation, you've watched games all year. I mean, look, there's so many teams right now that are scoring in the teens for a half. It's insane. I mean, every day you can sit there and watch some of them. And
it's been a crazy year, man.
Yeah, it's just nuts. That's why it's just difficult to win on the road.
And we haven't even gotten to the crazy part yet. We're not even. I mean, January is nothing. January is just the beginning of
late February, early
season.
March is just going to be crazy.
And then the tournaments this year, it's like, wow, forget about picking that. Who's going to win? Who's not going to win?
I'm so excited to see how they're going to seed teams and do all that in the NCAA tournament. I mean, there's going to be, how many teams do you think will have 10 losses in the Big Ten? How many teams do you think will be 500 in the Big Ten out of 14 teams? How many teams do you think will have at least 10 losses?
At least 3 or 4.
I'm going to say at least 8.
You think? Oh, you mean overall losses?
No, in the Big Ten. They'll finish 500 in the Big Ten.
Oh, wow.
I'll bet there'll be 7.
Yeah, I'd say half. Yeah,
I mean, teams that finish.
Yes, I'd say half the teams.
Third place through 9th place are all going to be one game apart. I mean, they're all going to be 10-10 or 9-11. That's my guess. There's just so many of them. Look at them. What's Rutgers going to finish on the year? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're all said and done, there's going to be a lot of losses. I mean, Indiana's going to have double-digit losses. Maybe. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think Indiana will have 7 losses.
If they can show what they can do on the road, that's the key. It's what can they do on the road. You got to steal, especially after giving up that give me at Wisconsin. You've got to find a place to steal one now, and you don't get to go to Northwestern.
Yeah, so, tomorrow's game is a big game. I mean, this week is a big week for them.
Yes, both these games are big.
Road-wise, this is a big week. I mean, you got these 2, and then your last 2 games of the year, your last 3 road games of the year are at Minnesota, at Purdue, at Illinois.
Indiana wins both of these games. They put themselves in a position to finish in the top 3 of the Big Ten.
They win, yeah. There's no question about that. I totally agree with you. If they and then they've got 2 home games after that, Michigan State and Maryland.
It's not as much fun when we agree.
If they win those 4 games, I disagree with you. I think it is more fun when we agree.
The after the game show announcer?
On the out.
Oh, I didn't hear what he said. Yeah, hey, we do have after the game with Todd Leary coming up tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. Guess when that's going to happen? After the game.
After the game.
Exactly. Indiana tips at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Indiana taking on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. We'll be there as soon as the game is over at around 9 p.m. Eastern. That's 8 o'clock Central if you're living in the Central time zone, which we have several listeners that are. But then again, we got listeners that live in Australia, so don't even know what time zone that is. But we appreciate. Yeah, it's tomorrow already. Yeah, it's tomorrow, Doug, wherever Doug is in Australia. But, yeah, looking forward to that again. Hopefully it's another positive game to talk about. And if it is, Indiana is really, really putting themselves in a solid position here as the season starts to pick up and progress. So big game tomorrow night. But, of course, we've got more to get to tomorrow on the program. Looking forward to talking to former Hoosier Jordan Hulls as he's over across the big pond playing right now. But he'll take time out, as he usually does, to have a chat with us. So looking forward to that too, man. It'll be fun, Todd.
Yep, I always enjoy hearing guys' perspectives on what they're doing after they get done, especially guys that are still playing. I played 2 years overseas. I like to hear what guys think of it and how things are going for them. Jordan's just obviously beloved by IU fans. I loved watching him play.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us today. We appreciate everybody joining us. Thanks to Chronic Hoosier. Thanks to Kalen DeBoer, the former Indiana offensive coordinator, now head coach of Fresno State. Until tomorrow, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, for Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.